Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In late October, Donald Trump sent out a tweet that may have surprised many of his followers. In the tweet, he linked to a video of filmmaker Michael Moore, along with the words, "I agree."
The televised confrontation unfolded as a dramatic collision of political theater and personal controversy, a moment that reverberated with the kind of incendiary energy that both Michael Moore and his audience have come to expect from his storied career. With a seasoned blend of biting satire and unapologetic directness, Moore launched into a scathing dissection of Donald Trump's public persona, zeroing in on the intimate dynamics of the relationship between Trump and Melania Trump. The discourse on stage was not merely a retort to policy or a debate over governance. It was an unfiltered exploration of character, ethics, and the intricate interplay of personal history and public life that had long been a fixture in the political arena. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. Throughout the broadcast, the atmosphere was charged with an intensity that reflected the weight of the issues at hand. Michael Moore, known for his incisive commentary and unyielding critique of those he viewed as emblematic of a corrupt establishment, took aim at the marriage of a man whose public image was built as much on bravado as on a carefully curated narrative of success. In doing so, Moore did not merely highlight discrepancies between Trump's carefully constructed image and his personal conduct. He methodically dismantled the veneer of invulnerability that had long shielded the businessman-turned-politician. His remarks about the personal life of Donald Trump went beyond the realm of typical political critique and ventured into a realm where the private and the public became inextricably intertwined. In the context of a newly elected leader, the choice to focus on the private domain of Trump's life was both bold and emblematic of a broader shift in the nature of political discourse. The very act of scrutinizing the details of a candidate's intimate relationships marked a departure from traditional political analysis, where policy and public performance had typically been the mainstay of debate. Instead, the confrontation illuminated the ways in which personal integrity and character could be weaponized in a culture increasingly obsessed with authenticity and the real-life consequences of public decisions. Moore's approach underscored the notion that in a time of rapid political polarization, the personal shortcomings of those in power could no longer be separated from their public responsibilities. The discourse on television that day was a carefully orchestrated performance, one that blended theatrical bravado with a searing critique of what Moore perceived to be a fundamental contradiction in Trump's persona. It was not simply an attack on a political figure. It was an indictment of a lifestyle and an attitude that had been glamorized by both media and public opinion. The focus on the marriage between Donald and Melania Trump served as a microcosm for broader concerns about trust, loyalty, and the ethics of leadership. By drawing attention to alleged improprieties and suggesting a pattern of behavior that undermined the sanctity of personal relationships, Moore tapped into a deeper vein of skepticism that many viewers harbored about the integrity of those who ascended to the highest offices. Every word delivered on that stage carried with it layers of meaning, each nuance deliberately chosen to evoke a reaction that was both visceral and reflective. Moore's rhetoric was suffused with the kind of emotional intensity that transcends mere political debate, reaching into the realm of moral judgment and personal accountability. His dissection of Trump's personal life was not an isolated act of sensationalism. It was a deliberate attempt to expose what he considered to be the hypocrisy at the heart of a political machine that had long celebrated surface-level success while ignoring deeper ethical failings. In doing so, Moore invoked a long tradition of political commentary where the personal is seen as an extension of the political, challenging the notion that a leader's private life should remain beyond the scope of public scrutiny. At the heart of the event was a recognition that the personal lives of public figures carry an inherent political significance. The discussion of Trump's marriage, set against the backdrop of his recent election victory, was a reminder that leadership is not solely defined by policy decisions or economic performance. Instead, it is equally contingent on the character and the moral framework that underpins those decisions. In the charged atmosphere of the broadcast, Moore's allegations were presented as an essential piece of the larger puzzle, a critique of a leader who, in his view, had repeatedly demonstrated a penchant for duplicity and self-aggrandizement. This moment on television thus became a symbolic battleground where the ideals of honesty, integrity, and genuine accountability were pitted against the allure of charisma and the seductive power of wealth. The implications of this confrontation extend far beyond the confines of the television studio. They speak to a larger cultural moment, one in which the boundaries between private and public life have become increasingly blurred. In an era marked by social media and the instantaneous circulation of information, the personal missteps of public figures are amplified and disseminated with unprecedented speed and reach. Moore's commentary, therefore, resonated on multiple levels. It was a reflection of the growing demand for transparency and ethical behavior from those in positions of power. And it was also a harbinger of a new kind of political accountability that rejects the traditional deference afforded to the personal lives of the elite. The method by which Moore engaged his audience was both incendiary and illuminating. His delivery, marked by a deliberate cadence and a palpable sense of righteous indignation, invited viewers to question the established narrative surrounding Trump's public image. There was an undeniable theatricality to his performance. A recognition that in order to challenge the entrenched symbols of power, one must often resort to a spectacle that disrupts conventional modes of communication. In this instance, the televised event was not merely a platform for commentary, but a stage upon which the broader cultural conflicts of the day were played out in real time. The focus on the alleged affairs and the integrity of a marital relationship was emblematic of a larger critique: that the personal deceptions of those in power are not just private matters, but are intrinsically linked to the public trust. Within this context, the implications of the televised encounter are multifaceted and profound. First, there is the immediate impact on the perception of leadership and credibility. When a well-known critic like Michael Moore directs his attention to the intimate details of a leader's life, it forces the public to grapple with the question of what constitutes ethical behavior in the realm of high office. The personal failings of a candidate, when exposed in such a public forum, challenge the assumption that professional accomplishments can or should insulate one from moral scrutiny. The event underscored a growing awareness that leadership is a holistic endeavor, one where personal behavior and public performance are inextricably linked. This revelation has the potential to alter the way political figures are evaluated, with a renewed focus on the character traits that underlie their decision-making processes. Furthermore, the confrontation served as a stark reminder of the power of media in shaping public discourse. The television medium, with its capacity to blend visual imagery, performance, and rhetoric, proved to be an effective vehicle for a message that went beyond traditional political analysis. Moore's performance illustrated how television can serve as a catalyst for a deeper conversation about the nature of power and the responsibilities that come with it. The event illuminated the ways in which personal narratives are constructed and deconstructed in the public sphere, a process that is often fraught with both symbolism and subtext. By dissecting the personal life of a political figure on live television, Moore not only challenged the prevailing narrative but also redefined the parameters of what could be considered fair game in political discourse. There is also an important cultural dimension to consider in the analysis of this event. The televised critique did more than just expose alleged personal indiscretions. It tapped into a broader societal concern about authenticity and the erosion of trust in public institutions. In a climate where cynicism about political leaders has become commonplace, the discussion of personal morality and fidelity takes on an added layer of significance. The personal transgressions of a leader are seen not as isolated incidents but as symptomatic of a deeper malaise, a disconnect between the values espoused by those in power and the realities of their conduct. Michael Moore's remarks, delivered with the characteristic flair that has defined his career, resonated with an audience that is increasingly disillusioned by what they perceive as the duplicity and superficiality of political life. This moment on television also raises questions about the role of personal narrative in the construction of political identity. The intimate details of a leader's private life, when laid bare for public consumption, serve as a powerful tool for both critics and supporters alike. On one hand, the exposure of alleged infidelities and personal shortcomings can be used to undermine a leader's credibility and moral authority. On the other hand, it can also prompt a re-examination of the standards by which public figures are judged. a shift that challenges the long-standing dichotomy between personal life and public duty. The televised confrontation, in its raw and unfiltered form, forced viewers to confront the uncomfortable reality that personal choices and character flaws have significant implications for the exercise of power. It questioned the legitimacy of a leader who, in the eyes of many, had long operated under the assumption that personal indiscretions were a private matter, irrelevant to the responsibilities of office. The intensity of the broadcast was amplified by the broader political and cultural context in which it occurred. In a time when political polarization has reached unprecedented levels, the personal lives of leaders have become a battleground for ideological warfare. The scrutiny of Trump's marriage was not merely an isolated instance of personal critique. It was emblematic of the ways in which political narratives are constructed and contested in an era defined by relentless media coverage and rapid information dissemination. The televised event underscored the inherent contradictions of a political system in which the boundaries between private morality and public responsibility are increasingly blurred. It highlighted the tension between a leader's right to personal privacy and the public's expectation of moral rectitude from those who hold power. There is also a significant symbolic dimension to the criticism leveled by Michael Moore on that night. The focus on the marital relationship and the implications of infidelity served as a potent metaphor for the perceived betrayal of trust that many felt had characterized the political ascent of Donald Trump. By invoking themes of loyalty and personal integrity, Moore tapped into a deep reservoir of cultural narratives about the sanctity of marriage and the moral obligations that come with leadership. His words were not merely a personal attack. They were a call to examine the values that underpin the social contract between leaders and the public. In this light, the event on television became a focal point for a larger debate about what it means to be a public servant, and whether personal failings should be allowed to compromise the collective trust that is essential for the effective functioning of democratic institutions. The implications of this televised moment extend into the realm of political strategy as well. In an era when political campaigns are increasingly characterized by a mix of personal attacks and sensationalist rhetoric, the event provided a stark illustration of the power dynamics at play. Michael Moore's method of blending personal critique with broader political commentary revealed a strategy aimed at destabilizing the carefully managed image of a candidate. The unvarnished focus on alleged personal indiscretions represented an attempt to peel away the layers of spin and propaganda that often obscure the true nature of political figures. In doing so, it raised critical questions about the ethics of political communication and the extent to which personal attacks can be justified in the pursuit of accountability. The spectacle of the event challenged the audience to rethink the criteria by which political success is measured, suggesting that the character of a leader is as crucial as their policy achievements. Moreover, the confrontation underscored the role of political commentary in shaping the collective imagination. Michael Moore's performance was not simply a moment of personal expression, it was a deliberate act of cultural intervention designed to provoke thought and inspire debate. His unrelenting focus on the personal aspects of Trump's life served as a mirror, reflecting the anxieties and aspirations of a society in flux. The event acted as a catalyst for a broader conversation about the nature of power and the responsibilities that accompany it, inviting viewers to reconsider the foundations of political legitimacy. The implications of such a discourse are far-reaching, suggesting that the boundaries of acceptable political debate are continually evolving in response to the shifting landscape of public opinion and media influence. The televised exchange also brought to light the intricate relationship between media, celebrity, and politics. Michael Moore's ability to capture the attention of millions was rooted in his status as both a cultural critic and a media personality, a role that allowed him to bridge the gap between the realms of high political drama and everyday life. His intervention on live television was a reminder that political figures are not immune to the forces of popular culture, and that their public images are inextricably linked to the narratives crafted by the media. The focus on Trump's marriage and personal behavior was emblematic of a broader trend in which the private lives of public figures are subjected to the same level of scrutiny as their policy decisions. This convergence of celebrity culture and political discourse has the effect of blurring the lines between entertainment and governance, a phenomenon that has profound implications for the future of political communication. The event's significance lies not only in its immediate impact on public perceptions, but also in its contribution to an ongoing evolution in the way political figures are held accountable. By foregrounding personal integrity and the ethical dimensions of leadership, the broadcast challenged conventional wisdom that seeks to separate private behavior from public service. The controversy generated by the discussion of Trump's marital life served as a stark reminder that the qualities of honesty, loyalty, and moral clarity are not merely ancillary attributes, but are integral to the trust that forms the basis of democratic governance. The televised moment was a vivid demonstration of how the personal choices of a leader can reverberate through the fabric of political life, prompting a re-evaluation of the very standards that have long been taken for granted. In this context, the event also revealed the underlying tensions between different visions of leadership. On one hand, there is the traditional view that a leader's personal life should remain a separate domain, insulated from the harsh scrutiny of public debate. On the other hand, there is a growing sentiment that the character and moral conduct of a leader are inseparable from their ability to govern effectively. Michael Moore's approach on television was a deliberate challenge to the former perspective, asserting that the integrity of a leader's personal life has a direct bearing on their public responsibilities. This clash of ideologies is emblematic of a broader cultural shift in which the private missteps of those in power are increasingly seen as reflective of deeper institutional failings. The televised critique, with its focus on personal indiscretions and the erosion of trust, underscored a demand for a more holistic and transparent approach to political accountability. The layered narrative woven during the broadcast captured the complexity of modern political discourse. It was a performance that was as much about dismantling a myth as it was about calling into question the credibility of a political figure. Michael Moore's words, delivered with a blend of irony and conviction, resonated on multiple levels, highlighting not only the discrepancies between public image and private behavior, but also the broader implications for the social contract between leaders and the governed. The discussion served as a potent reminder that leadership is a multifaceted enterprise, one that demands a rigorous examination of both public policies and personal ethics. The event, with its unyielding focus on the intricacies of marital fidelity and personal integrity, became a symbolic indictment of a system that has often prioritized style over substance. At its core, the televised confrontation was an exploration of the inherent tensions between personal freedom and public duty. It invited viewers to consider the ways in which the private lives of leaders can impact their public mandates, challenging the assumption that personal matters are beyond the realm of political consequence. The focus on allegations of infidelity and the critique of a carefully curated marital image underscored the idea that leadership is as much about moral leadership as it is about the execution of policy. The event laid bare the complexities of navigating the intersection of personal identity and public responsibility, revealing how the actions of a leader in their private life can serve as a barometer for their overall trustworthiness and capacity to inspire confidence in those they lead. Beyond the immediate realm of political commentary, the broadcast also had broader cultural implications that resonated with the evolving expectations of an engaged and informed citizenry. The detailed examination of Trump's personal life, set against the backdrop of his recent electoral success, invited a re-examination of the criteria by which public figures are evaluated. In an age where authenticity and accountability are increasingly prized, the insistence on scrutinizing personal behavior was a reflection of a cultural shift that demands greater transparency and ethical consistency from those who wield power. The televised exchange was a manifestation of this shift, a moment in which the personal shortcomings of a leader were laid bare for public analysis, prompting a collective introspection about the values that underpin modern governance. The narrative that emerged from the televised event was as compelling as it was complex, weaving together themes of personal integrity, political accountability, and the transformative power of media. Michael Moore's deliberate targeting of the intimate dimensions of Trump's life was an invitation for viewers to question the legitimacy of a political persona that had long been shielded by a veneer of celebrity and bravado. The discussion illuminated the inherent contradictions in a system where personal missteps can be dismissed as irrelevant to the exercise of power, challenging the audience to reconsider what it truly means to lead in an era marked by unprecedented scrutiny and rapid cultural change. Every facet of the confrontation on television resonated with layers of meaning that extended far beyond the immediate subject matter. It was an intricate performance that brought into focus the ways in which personal narratives, when exposed to the glare of public scrutiny, can serve as a catalyst for a broader reimagining of leadership. The deliberate emphasis on the alleged personal failings of a candidate was not an isolated moment of scandal, but rather a reflection of a growing societal demand for transparency and ethical rigor from those in positions of power. In a climate where trust in institutions has been steadily eroding, the detailed examination of a leader's personal life emerged as a powerful symbol of the need for accountability on all fronts. In reflecting on the dramatic unfolding of that televised moment, one cannot help but recognize the profound implications it holds for the future of political engagement and public trust. The deliberate fusion of personal critique with a broader examination of political ethics marked a turning point in the way political figures are scrutinized, signaling a departure from the era of sanitized political discourse. It revealed a cultural moment in which the boundaries between personal integrity and political legitimacy are increasingly questioned, laying bare the vulnerabilities of a system that has long operated under the assumption that personal missteps are peripheral to the responsibilities of leadership. The charged energy of the broadcast, marked by a relentless probing of personal life details and an unyielding challenge to establish narratives, continues to serve as a reminder that the character of a leader is not merely a matter of private concern, but a critical factor in the broader equation of public trust and accountability. It is an evocative illustration of the evolving expectations placed upon those who assume power, suggesting that in an era of heightened scrutiny, the personal and the political are destined to remain permanently intertwined. This televised encounter, with its provocative examination of marriage and alleged infidelity, stands as a testament to the transformative power of media and the enduring need for leaders to embody the ethical principles they profess to uphold. The intensity and resonance of that moment on television have carved out a lasting place in the evolving landscape of political commentary. It is a vivid reminder that in a society where the boundaries between personal conduct and public duty are increasingly blurred, the demands for transparency and ethical leadership are stronger than ever. Michael Moore's pointed critique served not only as an indictment of one man's personal failings, but also as a broader challenge to a political system that often shields its leaders from the full measure of accountability. The conversation that unfolded on live television remains a powerful symbol of the imperative to hold those in power to the highest standards of both personal and professional integrity, marking a moment of profound cultural significance that continues to inform the ongoing debate about the nature of leadership in modern society. The convergence of political commentary and performance art in this encounter marks a turning point in the way public figures are interrogated through the lens of personal morality and credibility. The spectacle demonstrated a fresh, unbridled approach to political discourse that bypassed the conventional focus on policy and governance. Instead, it opened up a new arena, where the intimate fabric of a leader's personal narrative became a canvas for exposing vulnerabilities, challenging established images, and demanding a deeper level of accountability. In this setting, the forceful interrogation of personal history transcended the realm of mere scandal, emerging as an emblem of the public's growing insistence on authenticity and moral fortitude from its leaders. The performance underscored a deliberate fusion of art and activism, where the boundaries between political debate and theatrical expression blurred seamlessly. This innovative approach to critique not only energized audiences, but also redefined the parameters of what is considered acceptable discourse in the public sphere. By venturing into territories once thought to be sacrosanct, the inner workings of a personal relationship, the commentator invited viewers to consider whether the separation between a public role and private life remains tenable in an era defined by pervasive media scrutiny. The very act of placing intimate matters under the spotlight challenged the long-held tradition of compartmentalizing personal shortcomings away from the arena of public responsibility, suggesting that transparency in one's private life might be intrinsically linked to effective leadership. This daring departure from conventional rhetoric also highlighted the evolving nature of political spectacle. The methods deployed in this performance reflect an adaptation to a cultural moment where visual and verbal provocations serve as powerful tools for social commentary. The striking imagery and charged language evoked a visceral reaction that stirred not only intellectual debate but also emotional engagement. Such a strategy draws upon a rich heritage of political satire, yet it reinvents that legacy for a new generation that craves a candid confrontation with the often hidden realities of power. The presentation was not simply a display of rhetoric, but a meticulously crafted narrative meant to dismantle a polished public persona, thereby compelling the audience to re-examine the moral and ethical prerequisites of leadership in a rapidly evolving society. The innovative approach also resonates with broader trends in the media landscape, where the traditional gatekeepers of political discourse are increasingly being bypassed by voices that speak directly to an engaged and diverse audience. In a media environment saturated with carefully curated messages, this performance broke through by offering an unfiltered perspective that questioned the very foundations of political image management. It propelled the debate beyond the confines of scripted narratives, urging citizens to confront the dissonance between projected public images and underlying personal truths. This direct confrontation, delivered in an uncompromising tone, signaled a cultural shift in which political legitimacy is no longer sustained solely by eloquence and charm, but is now critically dependent on the integrity and openness of personal conduct. An important dimension of this discourse is its capacity to serve as a catalyst for rethinking the relationship between celebrity culture and political authority. In today's era, where celebrity status can often mask substantive policy issues, the performance challenged the notion that personal magnetism or media savvy should outweigh a rigorous evaluation of character. The unveiling of personal matters, when done with an eye toward exposing inconsistencies and ethical lapses, has the potential to redefine the criteria by which leadership is measured. This redefinition is significant because it introduces an element of moral examination into the public's consideration of political performance, a shift that could recalibrate the balance between charisma and accountability in future evaluations of power. Furthermore, the encounter can be viewed as part of an ongoing transformation in the dynamics of political storytelling. Traditional narratives that once relied on sanitized portrayals of leaders are giving way to more complex, multifaceted depictions that acknowledge the interplay between personal imperfections and public responsibilities. This evolution in narrative structure is a response to an increasingly skeptical electorate, one that is less inclined to accept polished images and more predisposed to seek out the unvarnished truth. In this light, the performance becomes a microcosm of a broader cultural movement, one in which the demand for honesty and transparency becomes a central tenet of political legitimacy. It reorients the focus from abstract ideals to tangible expressions of character and behavior, urging a collective reassessment of what truly constitutes effective and ethical leadership. The layered dynamics of this performance also offer insights into the psychological impact of media on political engagement. By venturing into the personal realm, the commentator effectively harnessed the power of narrative to evoke strong emotional responses and galvanize public sentiment. This strategic deployment of personal storytelling functions as a mirror reflecting the inner anxieties and aspirations of an audience that is increasingly disillusioned by traditional political institutions. The emotional resonance achieved through this method encourages a more participatory form of political dialogue, where citizens are not merely passive recipients of crafted messages, but active interpreters of complex moral landscapes. The result is a more dynamic interaction between the individual and the political, wherein personal integrity becomes a potent symbol of collective hope and renewed trust in public leadership. In exploring these new dimensions, the performance also prompts a deeper inquiry into the nature of power itself. It challenges the established hierarchy that has long insulated political figures from critical scrutiny by suggesting that power, in its truest form, is contingent upon vulnerability and authenticity. This perspective invites a radical rethinking of authority, where the relentless pursuit of an idealized public image is replaced by a more humane and transparent expression of leadership. The resultant narrative is one that not only questions the legitimacy of power derived from superficial qualities, but also underscores the transformative potential of a more empathetic and accountable political culture. In sum, the extended commentary emerges as a profound exploration of the intricate interplay between personal narrative and political authority. It reimagines the landscape of public discourse by introducing new criteria for evaluating leadership, criteria that place moral integrity, openness, and authenticity at the forefront. The innovative fusion of theatrical critique with incisive political analysis invites a re-evaluation of the very foundations of power, suggesting that in an era of relentless media exposure, the personal dimension of leadership is not merely an accessory, but an essential component of genuine accountability. This transformation in political storytelling holds the promise of forging a new paradigm in which the human aspects of leadership are recognized as integral to the pursuit of a more just and transparent society. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us. What are your thoughts on Michael Moore's accusations against Donald Trump and Melania's marriage? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.